Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode. This is episode 7, or is this 8? Episode 7.
I think 8.
Well, welcome to another episode of Casie Unhinged. We are pre-recording this week, so we are not live right now. But you guys haven't figured that out yet, maybe. But because I will be unhinged this weekend, I have a friend coming into town, and we will be brunching Sunday, and I have a feeling that by the time live show rolls around that it would be a little too unhinged to be recording. So we're pre-recording the show this week. I don't know, maybe at some point we'll do a really unhinged episode, and that would be
that would make for a good show.
Oh my god, anyways. But yes, thanks for coming back to watch. For those of you who've seen other episodes where we're just talking about the other things in life that we have experienced, the thing we've go through. We keep it fun, light, real, serious, not serious. It's sort of Sonia and I's relationship and friendship as a whole, and it's always been that back and forth. So we always like to start out the show by talking about some weekly updates. It's been 4 days since we did the last episode, but I feel like every day we talk, there's just something new and interesting that's happened, and whatever. I continued to set up my coffee bar this week and just work, but you've had a more exciting week than I have. So you guys have some people in town.
Yeah, we've got some friends, Suzanne and Randy. Suzanne is actually Dante's stepmom.
Okay.
And her husband, Randy.
Okay.
Her first time in Arizona, so it's been really fun to show her around.
Yeah, so what do you guys...
They've lived in Florida the last, I think, 3 years. So okay. This is totally different.
So they came from Florida to come stay with you guys?
They live in Minnesota and now they moved last year back to Minnesota.
Okay.
But they were, previously in Florida.
How are they doing with the heat? I mean, it got really hot here in Arizona this week. It was 80 Monday, last weekend it was perfect, and now it's going to be, today's 95, tomorrow's 100.
You remember that trip to St. Augustine in August we went to?
Yeah.
I don't think this heat's touching. They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're, I mean, it's just different because it's dry here, people from Florida, they have a hard time with the dryness. And when we go to Florida, we're oh my God, it's sticky and disgusting. And this is crazy.
But we have a pool. So we live in that in the afternoon.
I don't think that this weather's bad. I actually love it. I went on a walk yesterday afternoon and I was this doesn't actually feel that hot. It feels great.
Randy and Brian just got back from the trails. They went on the side-by-side. And they said in the dead of the desert, it's hot right now. And they saw a little baby deer.
Cute.
Yeah.
You guys got all the wildlife. You got all the wildlife going.
Yeah. I still need the rattlesnakes are out. So you gotta kind of watch where you step.
Do you guys see any?
Not yet. I want to. I'll take a picture.
I don't even want to see one.
I want to see the javelinas. You've seen them where you live.
I saw one in the Walmart, a little pack of them in the Walmart parking lot leaving one night. Remember? And one of them was injured and hobbling. And I took a video of it and sent it to my family. So she's oh, that's so sad. Poor baby. And I'm no, they're awful, stinky, gross. And they tear people's stuff up, and they have parasites and bacteria, and they're just dirty, mean, destructive animals.
They're in the rodent family, someone said.
Yeah. And people in North Scottsdale, some of my mom's friends were yeah, they literally destroyed all of our plants. They tore all of our stuff up in the yards. They just come and destruct and then leave. And then they're dangerous too.
You should have your photo of the javelinas up.
I will. And they're dangerous too, I guess, with little small dogs and stuff. You have to be careful.
Yeah, I heard they'll attack the dog.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, rattlesnakes. We went hiking looking for the wild horses. There's almost 400 in this area.
I want to see them too.
We finally saw one.
Yeah. And then you guys did a little boat tour and.
Yep. Went on a boat ride and saw a very rare saguaro cactus.
That's cool. Yeah, you have to get a picture of that sometime.
And then you see the sheep, the mountain sheep.
Okay.
Those are fun to watch. Climb up the mountain.
whole different world down there in Apache Junction.
Yeah.
I've not been doing a lot. I've been just working and trying to get ahead for Jess coming into town. We're gonna have tons of pool time. We're going to pool party Saturday. We're gonna have a couple dinners, go out, seeing you guys for brunch Sunday. So that'll be fun.
Yes. Excited.
And just like enjoy some heat in the sun time. So yeah.
102 tomorrow. It's a record, they said.
Whew, I'm ready.
Agree.
Well, why don't we jump into the show? One of our main topics that we've been wanting to talk about for a while is on like friendships and stuff. And obviously like the first episode that you and I did together, with episode 4 or whatever, was talking about how our friendship developed and our friendship came to be. And I remember when we first met, you and I almost had like not completely different friend groups, but like a lot of different friends that we no longer have anymore. And I think the more you develop closer, stronger, like meaningful friendships, and the more mature you get, the more you realize that like some of these people weren't actually your friends, or like the things that you thought meant a lot actually don't. And then you get rid of friendships, or something happens and it completely crumbles. And so we both have lost friends through the last 7-8 years that we've been friends. And I've dumped friends, like even ones that I met here when I moved to Arizona. I'm like, this is my vibe. This is the people I'm trying to meet. These are the people I want to be surrounded with. Like that girl who was getting kicked out of bars and restaurants that we would go into and was just trashy or whatever, which I kind of knew when I got here, but I was like, I don't really know anyone. I'm trying to meet people. And then a couple months in, I was like, I just can't do it anymore. But there were other people I was friends with for years that then I was like, still like, I don't actually feel bad about this. I'm done. And I think there's a lot of people who continue to entertain friendships and keep them around because they're afraid to let people go, or they think that they can still maintain a certain level of whatever, even though they're keeping those people around. And I think the reality is a lot of those things negatively affect us a lot more than we realize. And we don't see that until they're gone. I mean, it's the same thing with like dating and relationships and whatever. It's easier to see it in hindsight. But the one that you dumped was how many years? That was like 4 years ago now. How many?
I think it's been 3 or 4 years this summer.
Yeah. And you guys went to like high school together.
I met her when I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we were college roommates.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were friends for years.
So yeah, it's a long friendship to kind of just suddenly be like, to realize to get rid of. But I mean, there was always things there that were like draining.
Well, I didn't realize how negative she was.
Yeah.
And until it was all said and done, and it was almost like a breath of fresh air to not have to deal with that negativity every day.
Yeah.
So all of her negative, I would counter with a positive.
Yeah.
And she'd somehow circle back around the negative. I didn't realize the circle we kept going in.
Yeah. Well, you are such a helper. Like you want everyone to be happy and healthy and whatever. And like when we met versus like who you are now, I feel like you really started setting a ton of boundaries in your life with friendships and relationships and whatever, because
if people don't align with my morals and values, we just can't. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, like she constantly complained about her health and her weight, and it would be like people who love to be in that victim mentality and sit and complain about things over and over again, but then like literally do nothing about it, and they don't try, and they use everything as an excuse, but then they continue to like complain and ask questions about it. And it's like, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm trying to help you. You're not helping yourself, and you just want to sit and complain about it. And there's people who feel comfortable in that negativity, even though they try to blame everything else, but they won't ever do anything about it.
Well, Brian's take is long before I understood who and what she was, he would tell me, I think she's talking shit about you, and I think she's jealous of you. I just couldn't see it.
Well, we don't want to believe that the people closest to us are the ones that are like, like you were such a good person to her. So it's like, why would you want to believe that somebody was, being that way?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's hard.
But I think because you were such a giver is why in the end she ended up trying to take advantage of the situation.
Well, and to this day, I don't know if she was in cahoots with this other person. I don't know if she even knows that he came forward and was honest about what they were trying to do and how much they were trying to take from me, thinking I wouldn't even realize it. So where she probably thought she was being really sneaky and conniving and good at what she does, she was snitched out.
Yeah.
Sealed the deal.
Well, and I think like even with like relationships and stuff too, it's like when we constantly give people excuses and there's negativity and it's affecting us more, I think like the universe will finally like slap us across the face with a big enough situation where we have no other option but to like get rid of people like that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
if we don't see chaos and drama, people that see chaos and drama, they make sure that remains their life because that's their comfort.
Yeah.
Which is, as you become healthy, not just physical health, but also your mental health.
Yeah.
You can't allow it in your life.
Well, it's so draining. And then it gets to a point where you're like, what sort of positivity are you bringing to my life? And it's like, I think like you were put on this earth to be a helper and to, like you've done that for so many people in such a positive way. But when you have that energy and that aura about you, then you end up attracting people who still aren't going to utilize what you have to offer. And when you're used to stepping into that role all the time, then you kind of get in that mode of like being a fixer. And then you don't even really realize like, this isn't really helping me at all. And I'm not even helping you at this point. And it's kind of just draining me. And I think like with work, it's like, okay, yeah, fine. You're paying me for something and I can sit and motivate you and whatever. It's not an even energy exchange, but with friendships, it's like it should be a two-way street and you shouldn't be on the side where you are always giving and it's draining. Like, of course, people are going to go through stuff that's hard or where it might take more out of you to have certain conversations, or your friends need to feel that motivation from you. And it's okay to step into that role. But when it's like always you motivating someone else or always you trying to help them be more positive, and it's this like constant whatever, that's where like things start to drift and where you're finally like, why am I friends with this person? Like, there's no point. There's no benefit from any angle, No.
Anything that drains you in life, dump it.
Yeah. So I think in your case, it was like, and actually, why was I friends with her this long? Because there was just so much other stuff,
Well, and the people that are higher society and have some class, they didn't like her. And I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
Now I get how trashy she was, but again, I couldn't see it. I was too close.
Yeah. But like, even in the friendships that I dumped, quote unquote, it's like for me as a kid, like I grew up with insecurities and I had a lot of things and I felt like misjudged or misunderstood. And I felt like people didn't get me or might think I was a certain type of way when I really had like this whole other side to me that people didn't see. And so like for a long time, I did have some friendships where I might see some of these negative qualities and aspects of them. But at the same time, like I focused on the positive sides of them or the parts of them that I really enjoyed. And so like even up until a couple of years ago with the last one that like ended, and then a few years before that with the other one, it was like, hey, like we don't have these in-depth spiritual conversations or whatever, like with B, but it was, oh, we are both single, like we have fun together, like we let loose, have a good time, like, but like I wouldn't call you for advice because I don't think you're good at actually giving it at all. And we don't like there's no depth there, which now in hindsight with that, there's a reason that there was no depth there because of what she was lying about. But I still to this day appreciate the friendship we had because I do believe that she enjoyed my company and wanted to be my friend. And there is a good side of her that could be there if she chose to be a better person. But when I found out the things I found out and looking back, I was like, you're actually not a good person. And this was all based on a lie. And the lie was that the entire time we were friends, which she started as a client. And so then, slowly got closer and whatever. And it was like 7 years of friendship. I then at 7 years, when she decided to move out of state, find out that she's been married the whole time and always had a roommate, but didn't know that the roommate was actually her husband. And a lot of our outings were us going out, hanging out, meeting guys, her sleeping with other guys, her, manipulating other guys, like the guys that she hooked up with, even if though they were like casual situations, were clients of mine or like friends of mine that I, at that time that I had met through her. And so then when she moves and then says like, I have something I really want to talk to you about, you need to tell you, blah, blah, blah.
But go back even when we all took a trip together and she met up with that married guy.
Yeah.
She was all over the map with.
Yeah. Yeah. She often didn't make great choices, but she was always like, oh, I don't have any money. Like she didn't have a great job. Like I didn't have any money. So I'd like kind of give her a coaching deal every once in a while and like not charge her as much and whatever. Cause I just like, I liked her and I wanted her to be able to keep doing what she was doing and whatever. And then it's like, oh no, it turns out you're married and your husband's actually in like health in the high up in the healthcare something or another. And I like kind of tried to understand, like maybe it's an open relationship, maybe whatever. And so I flew out there like a month later just so we could like talk in person about stuff and like ask more follow-up questions. And I'm like, oh no, her husband doesn't actually know that she's cheating. And like, oh, like, why don't you just tell him you guys can have an open relationship? Oh no, like I would never be okay with him doing this, but like, I want to go to it. And I'm just like, you are very insecure and fucking like controlling and toxic. And it just like, it took like, I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt with things, but I'm like, at the same time, then like, why lie to me about it? And she's just like, well, you have like very high morals and values. Like, I just knew you wouldn't be okay with it. And I'm like, so you just, what was your long-term plan was what? I just was such good friends with you that I just wouldn't care by the time you told me. And even in the end, it wasn't even necessarily all about the fact that she lied, but it was like the follow-up questions asking her about the situations and some of the things that like happened and how she felt about certain things, where I was like, you're like a straight narcissist, controlling, like manipulating liar. And then
didn't she also tell you she was going to stop cheating when she moved out of state?
Yeah, she's like, he's moving, like my husband's coming down in like a month or two and then whatever. Well, then I like after she came back to Minnesota right after that trip, I went out with her and one of the guys that was a client of mine who she had previous relations with. And I was supposed to get together with him and like some of his buddies at one point, and I was like ending things with B and basically told him like, hey, like you guys have known each other 12 or 14 years or something. And she's been lying to you this whole time also. And I just found this out. And so like, just FYI. And he was just like, what the F? And then another guy who I had met, whatever, told him. And she always told me that this other guy, number two, was like controlling her and didn't know what he wanted, had all this like PTSD from being in the army or the whatever. And so she flipped the script to me, even though I didn't care. Like I had nothing to do with it, but she'd be like, oh yeah, he just doesn't this and that. And like, I don't know. So there was just a lot of things. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And at that point, I remember sending her a long text. So she's like, you've been really MIA, whatever. And I'm like, honestly, I'm just struggling with like why I would even be friends with you at this point. Like, I just think you're like a really negative. Because I remember that day we hopped around. We were out like in North Loop or whatever in Minneapolis. And there was this guy that was just like standing at the bar, and he was like very well dressed. And I think he was with some like strippers that were like promoting one of the strip clubs or something. And she like points this guy out. She's like, God, he looks gay. Like she just goes off about him with his loafers and like how he looks. And she just like wouldn't let it go. And she kept going. And I'm like, why do you care so much how this guy looks right now? Like you're like overly concerned about whatever. I'm like, also he's with a bunch of strippers. So I'm like, and I don't really know like why you're pinned. There was just like weird things where I was like, you know, and we'd be out and she'd just make fun of like fat people and like start, it's just disgusting and whatever. And I'm like, it would just be the negativity and the judgment, but she also competed and was just like very insecure. And so it was like, she would pick other people apart. And I'm just like, God, it just became so evident when all that stuff went down, you know?
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sick.
So anyways, like just interesting to go back and rehash it, but like dropped her and it's been like almost this, I think ours kind of happened around similar time frames. Like I feel like it'll be like,
I think so.
4 years, 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer. I don't know, 4 or 5 years and whatever. And then the other one was just like a year and a half ago, right after I moved, you know.
Not even a year.
It was a year and
really?
it was a year in December, and so it's whatever, year and a half.
Wow.
But yeah,
I didn't realize it was so soon after you moved.
Yeah, like she just, I don't know, she just became she's very barky. Called her the angry white girl because she would just like freak out about situations and just be negative. And then she was, my unhinged word came from her as sort of a joke, and now I actually like it, but she was very unhinged. You know, not toxic and all the things. And I didn't know, she was a great time and we had fun together. And I appreciated her and our friendship. But the last conversation was just like her flipping out about me talking about a guy or something. And she just had I don't know, it just had the feeling that she had a hard time with her own stuff and was like projecting it onto me. And when she left that weekend, I just felt drained because she had a strep throat yet again after screwing 3 dudes before she came out to see me, and had strep throat again. It kind of ruined the trip. We were supposed to go up to Sedona. We couldn't go to Sedona because she was sick. And I was like, you know, letting her chill. And then I was like, oh, do you want to like go to dinner or whatever? And she's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm just trying to suggest things because you're sick yet again, because the other year before we were in Florida and the same thing had happened. She screwed some dude a day or two before our trip and then got strep throat while we were in Florida and had to get on antibiotics. That was when we both had like bad food poisoning that trip. And then a year later, she comes out to see me here, gets strep again after she went on some fuck bender, which is what I call it, the week prior.
That's like an active throw.
Huh?
That's an active throw.
Active throw? Oh, her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you basically ruined the trip and now you're negative and you're unhappy and you're barking at me. And like, she just left. And then that little like stupid text thing that happened. And I was like, I'm drained from you. Like, we never talked again. I think a week or two later, I like wished her happy birthday and she was like, thanks. And then my birthday rolled around a few days later, not crickets. And I was like, I'm done. Like, and I feel bad about it. So, I don't know.
I wouldn't feel bad. No. She lost out.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's one of those things where, again, like you appreciate people for what they bring to your life, but like, you see the parts of them initially that you're like, oh, I don't like love that about that person, or we don't jive on this. And it's like, you let those things go, but then I feel like they always end up coming around to like matter later. There's something that like you either can't trust somebody, or it's the negativity that they end up being, or they're taking away from your energy, or like even the association. Like I remember talking about certain friendships to like, like my guy friend Nate or whatever, and he was just like, I can't even believe that you are like friends with some of these people, because I would be talking about who they are, like what they represent or things they do or whatever, and he's like, these just don't seem like the kind of friends that like fit with you, like you just aren't whatever. And I remember being like, I don't think that there's a problem having certain friendships, like, and I'm not going to go to these people for advice, or I don't think that they're whatever, but I'm like, I do think that it's shows as a reflection of you with your friends. And I'm like, to me at this point in my life, like that means a lot, where I could take any one of my friends somewhere to meet potential business partners or romantic interests or whatever the case is, and then be like, yeah, this is an accurate representation of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
like to me that means a lot.
Okay.
So especially when you're like your own brand and your own business and your own whatever, it's like, hey, I could go sell. With a guy in my DMs the other day trying to sell me pictures of me squashing bugs in shoes or whatever. And it's like, I could go be making money doing all this random.
Okay, you have to elaborate on that. You didn't say enough.
Yeah, we'll go back to it. But I'm like, I could be out on the internet making money by doing certain things and whatever. But I'm like, that sticks with you forever. That shows a representation or a side of you that reflects on you and looks badly. And so like, you have to put that into perspective in all aspects of your life. It's your friendships, it's the internet, it's your business, it's people you look at, date, whatever. But yeah, I get a lot of weird DMs, but the one the other day was about a guy who wanted to pay me money to, what did he say, step on bugs, but I could choose any shoes that I wanted to, and he's like, we can do it through PayPal, there'll be no like, you don't have to show your face, or I don't know. He had like a very whole setup.
Very specific.
Very specific, but bugs. So then I'm like, I had so many follow-up questions for people like this, but then it's like, once you open the door, then you just like, you're now committed to like talking with them, and then you have to just block them. So if you just leave it in the unread, like you can see the message, but if you accept it, then suddenly now they like can get into the inbox, and like that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's just like I don't have enough time to be just like asking stupid questions to people. But I'm like,
that's the energy.
We were talking like, how much money are they paying these days for this random stuff? That's number one. Like how much are you going to pay for someone to squash a bug? But also like, what is there? Do you care what kind of bug I would squash with my foot? Or do you have a specific, does it need to be like a big crunch? Like, does it need to be like a cockroach bug, or can it be like an ant? Or like, and should I just wait till I find a bug and catch it? And then where do I do it? Like
and you get to pick the shoes. So obviously shoes don't matter.
I know.
What if you did it barefoot? Did you get paid extra?
Right. But I also want to know, what about squashing the bug is like something that you want, like that you enjoy watching?
Or maybe it's the sound. So maybe it has to be a bigger bug with a hard shell.
But then like in the fetish stuff, it's like guys will want like stomping sessions where they like want a girl to like walk on them and like jump on them. And that's a thing because they like to feel like, I don't know if it's a domination thing or whatever. So I'm like, then when I think about the bugs that are that small in comparison, it's like, do you want me to look even larger? Like, do you think you're a bug? Are you imagining that you're a bug? Or like, what? I want to understand the desire to see that. That is right. The part. That's the part I'm curious about.
I think just leave it at curious and don't
know.
engage, like you said.
I know. Maybe he'll like get into it more and I won't have to ask questions and just see, you know.
Just keep messaging you more details.
Yeah. Maybe I'll see this and be like, okay, just so you know.
Let me clarify.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll never understand. But yeah, no thanks on the thing, because I don't know. It's a time sucker. So
maybe a whole week you take off just to message these people back about all the fetishes you get messages on, and then you just segments on that.
You know, and then we just talk about, well, I like fetish, but then that's going to attract more fetish people. And now, like, the thing is, like, on my second TikTok, the Blonde Mountain TikTok, it's kind of turned into like my tall girl page, because there's a lot of tall women out there, but not a lot of them like work out the way I do or have like the bodybuilding side, because it's like taller people usually don't have like the muscle structure. But like also like tall girl fashion is like, to me, interesting, because a lot of the fashion stuff that they have out there for tall women is like ugly, and it's like built for refrigerators. So like they don't have like the certain body, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I've always kind of like gotten around to like dress myself and find ways around things. And I think that's almost more fun, where you like, oh, hey, I know my body type. And I'm like, I don't need to buy tall all the time. I just like learn how to use normal people clothes to like dress myself, sort of.
Normal people.
Yeah. But I'm like, I love the makeup and the fashion, whatever. So I'm like, I don't know. It's just fun to do like all of that. But then I end up like talking about funny things that tall people say to tall people and whatever, because it's just interesting, and it's like a whole perspective that people don't hear, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yesterday I made a TikTok on this last night. I was out shopping, and I had two older ladies that came up to me in the store, and they were very cute. And the one lady pops around the aisle and she's like, did God make you that way, or do you just work out a lot? And she does like this with her biceps. And I'm not kidding. She was like probably in her mid to late 70s, but so cute. And I was just like, kind of both. Like, I've been an athlete all my life, but yeah, I do like work out hard, but like, I don't know, whatever. And she was like, oh, she's like, I don't remember what she said. And then she kind of walked away, and it was cute.
That's cute.
Yeah. And then out at a different store, this other lady behind me was like, I just have to tell you, you have an amazing physique. But like, she was also like in her 70s. And I thought that was like something that was interesting for like a 70-year-old to say, because usually it's like, oh, you have great arms, or like, you're in good shape, or like they just say, do you work out? But she said, oh, you have an amazing physique. It was like a very like,
specific. Well,
yeah,
maybe she used to be a bodybuilder.
I know, or she goes to the gym still or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know that I paid attention enough to like really like check her out while she was checking me out, kind of, because that would be weird. But I was like, oh, I really appreciate that. But I was like, in both instances, never once was it like about how tall I was, or how, oh, you're in good shape for a tall person. Like, they didn't have to like give it any context. It's like, hey, you look great regardless of how tall you are, or, you know, whatever. And so that was kind of funny, because usually that's not the compliment. It's always about my height or something like that. My feet. I don't get public feet comments, mostly private feet comments, but yeah. Yeah.
Keep that in private.
But I did want to talk about some of the like hydration mineral stuff, because it's something that is constantly coming up in conversations on the health side. And I'm constantly preaching about electrolytes, and I think I got everyone in this city of Faribault on doing electrolytes during COVID and staying hydrated when they were drinking all the wine and like staying at home and stuff. But hydration is such a basic thing for most people. Like, oh, I drink water and it's fine. But like, hydration goes beyond drinking water, and it's a cellular thing. So like, your cells can't absorb and utilize the water and hydrate unless it has those electrolytes to pull in. And like, I mean, you notice a difference when you take them versus not. And
Mhm.
people don't need a ton, but like tap water, for instance, can have sodium, it can have chloride, it can have heavy metals, it can have fluorides, halides, bromides, and a lot of other toxic chemicals, but we don't know what's in the water. And when I do some of the HTMA hair tissue mineral analysis testing, we're finding a lot of tap water having a lot of these heavy metals in them, and it's a different source depending on where you live and what city. And you don't necessarily accumulate those heavy metals unless you have some mineral imbalances in your system. And I think on the other side with the supplement stuff, like you've always done the supplements, whatever, and you're very consistent with that. But when people have deficiencies, their body will tend to accumulate more of these heavy metals, and then it continues to like drive things out of control. And so like we all know those people who drink tons of water, but all they're constantly peeing, you know, and you're not just peeing because you're drinking enough water. It's like you're peeing it all out because your body isn't retaining any of it. Like to be going to the bathroom constantly throughout the day because you're drinking a lot more water isn't a good sign, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah. And a lot of what I'm seeing is like a deficiency in potassium. Like a lot of people have low potassium because sodium is easy to get in. Sodium's in everything, and potassium's in a lot of healthy foods, but people aren't eating enough, or their sodium's so high the potassium can't come up.
So potassium play a part in retaining hydration?
Yeah. So there's something called the sodium potassium pump, and those two work together simultaneously to bring fluid into the cell. And so if you have a lot of sodium but you don't have enough potassium, then that cell still isn't hydrating. It's not just salt itself that's helping the cell utilize. And the higher your sodium is, when you have lower potassium, it can create severe adrenal responses, aldosterone retention, and a lot more stress in the body. And so I don't know if that's where people are like, oh, if I do less sodium, then I like don't feel so stressed or my blood pressure goes down. And it's like, likely you just have lower potassium, and the lower that potassium is, the more that sodium will drive up. And so especially with the minerals in the body, there are some that work together, and then there's some that like work against each other. And so sodium and potassium are one of those where they're antagonistic, even though they work together. So they need to be balanced to work together, but they also compete. So if sodium gets too high, it will drive the potassium lower. And calcium and magnesium work the same way. They basically, I know they say fight for absorption, but if someone's out here hammering a bunch of magnesium all the time, but they don't take calcium, then that calcium will get even lower. And so there are certain things that have been preached through just the social media and whatever for people to take and to use, but people don't really put that into context. Does magnesium deplete quicker than other minerals? Sometimes and usually, but it doesn't mean you actually have enough calcium either. And you can see it in personalities and physical responses with people. So like people who are extremely sluggish and super tired all the time and whatever tend to have very low sodium and potassium levels because they're more energetic hormones that like help the adrenals and the cortisol and the thyroid hormones. Or people who have extremely high anxiety and stress levels and whatever, like tend to have an imbalance in magnesium and calcium, or just very low in those two because they're calming minerals. But all four of those play a role in the hydration. And so like sodium and potassium help hydrate the cell, but then magnesium and calcium help mobilize those hydrated cells to certain areas. So you might be kind of hydrating, but like if you don't have enough magnesium or calcium, then those, my kidneys aren't getting hydrated, or these cells aren't moving in the body where they need to. And this is where like major dysfunction happens. And so one of the retests I just did yesterday was for a 7-year-old who had a ton of issues with hydration. Like we're getting some of those up, but the calcium is still like very, very low. And his blood calcium is high, but it's because his tissue calcium is so low, his body has started leaching calcium from the bone into the blood just to get enough. And so it's a response. So the doctors will say, stop taking calcium, he has too much. And it's actually the opposite. And this is why sometimes blood tests can be hard to judge by an inaccurate, and it depends on what it is. But this 7-year-old boy also has elevated arsenic in his tissues, and
Wow.
he's having some issues with iron deficiency anemia, where his some of his red blood cells are really high, his iron saturation, but his ferritin is really low. But his, and so they might say, oh yeah, I don't understand why this is whatever, but his copper is really low, and you need copper to put iron into the cell. Like it's similar to how sodium, potassium work. Like they're cofactor minerals, and this is how the whole body works. Is you can't use one mineral without another one. And a lot of the minerals work like that. Your body cannot retain iron and use it unless it has the other minerals needed to pull it where it needs to go. So you could do a hemoglobin, and your hemoglobin might be like, oh yeah, it's normal, but your ferritin's super low, but your iron saturation is super high. Well, this means it's stuck in the tissue, and there's iron in there, but it can't get where it needs to go. And why is that? Oh, you're going to go hammer so-and-so with some iron infusion IVs or put them on some iron supplements forever, but you're never going to think, why is this person not absorbing their iron well? Oh, could they have low copper? And it's like, honestly, it's like science 101, but like a doctor will never like address the deeper deficiencies and why these people are doing it. It just happened with my nephew. So his copper is still, super low. And, that iron can't come up. And there's arsenic in the body. So at this point, we're going to have to chelate the iron out. You got to remove the heavy metals because it's blocking absorption. It's causing the zinc to get super high. Zinc and copper compete. So it's just, it gets complex, and not that like most people need to like know and understand all of this stuff, but the hydration every cell of the body needs. And if people are constantly tired and driving their systems out of balance and can't feel balanced, they're not sleeping well, they're not hydrating well, like they have hormonal stuff, like typically there's something going on in the body that's like deeper.
When you run a panel, do you look at all of those things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and so the HTMA testing is actually a really easy test to do. We just take the hair sample, and then the whole mineral profile comes back, and then we can relate it to other symptoms and other things that are going on. I like to do it in conjunction with like some of the labs or other things. And it really depends on the person and what they have going on. But like, there's so much you can do to help people. Like I have another client of mine who I've worked with for a while, and she was peeing a lot, having issues with hydration, and also had some iron issues. And then when we ran her hair test, her potassium was super, super low. And then she had issues with her copper as well. And literally like 2 days in, she's like, I'm a whole different person. I'm not peeing. I have more energy. My mood is higher. My energy is higher. Like it was like night and day. And I'm like, I've worked with this girl for like several years, and you can't just guess on this stuff because it can be so all over the place. So, and even some of the other ones, like 2 of the tests I did, a couple of weeks back was like extremely elevated levels of cobalt. And this was within a family, and they both had it. Crazy. And they were both drinking tap water. And I said, this is coming from your water. So it was causing other issues in there, whatever. So it's just interesting to see like where issues are coming up,
Scary.
It is. Yeah. And then everyone, you have people out here that are just like, here's these electrolytes, drink your water, or use this or use that. And I'm like, you don't know either. Like you're just guessing, and you're just regurgitating. Yeah. People regurgitate information constantly that they hear someone else say, or that they've heard enough times. So now they just believe it to be true, but they don't actually understand what that means or how it is. And I talk to people about hydration all the time, and they're like, yeah, I drink plenty of water, so I know that's fine. And I'm like, you're not listening to what I'm saying to you. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
like when I got my minerals balanced, I'm like, I redid my hair test back in December, and it was like, I drink less water now because I'm not peeing out so much of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, even people like myself, it's just like a whole different, thing. So, okay, well, tell us about your bingo from the trailer park this week, because, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. But you are like the I don't know, reigning champ, I guess, over there.
I'm on a streak. I've gone 5 times and I've won 3 out of the 5.
Some good odds. And there's like, what you said, there's like 100 people that play.
Oh yeah, and possibly even more. Mm-hmm. It's a packed room.
It's what? A packed room?
It's a packed room. It's a good time.
I love that. I know, but it's like, this is what's funny about bingo is like, really, it's just luck.
There's no skill. Yeah.
So you're just being lucky.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. God just blesses me.
Yeah.
He just feels I need more money.
And like, what is it? Like some of the ladies who are like, you're so young to be here. And now they think like, oh, you've got like a leg up on because you're the young one now at the trailer park. Keep playing bingo with them.
Possibly. They're all so sweet. And they notice, like this lady I walked in last night, and I met her at the pool, and she's been battling. Her husband's had cancer for 6 years, and she's his caretaker, but just the sweetest, coolest lady. And she noticed my hair was so much longer and said something.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's fun that everybody's just complimentary and here for a good time.
Starting to get to know each other. And I love that. Well, and it's got to be more fun now, like, this next year when you come back again to just like see people again and like have a whole different community of people and whatever.
Well, and Dante's stepmom and her husband are looking at maybe moving down here.
Okay. I feel like everyone who comes to visit is always kind of like, oh, actually, this is kind of nice.
This is doable.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, cute.
The sun shines every day. How can you go wrong?
Yeah, for sure. I know. And I feel like this episode, like we kind of last minute planned just because we were like trying to get it in before the last one in this weekend. So this is sort of like an impromptu sort of a thing. So we'll have some other planned. We're going to go over some of our, one of our trips next week.
You've got Jess coming in for the weekend. You might have some other good stories.
Oh yeah. We're going to have some stories, some documentation. We're going to go over our Atlanta trip, I think, next week. We have
Atlanta.
So many interesting stories from our experience there, how we thought about it and all that stuff, which is a few years ago now. But yeah, also my weekend, we'll like find something interesting to get into at brunch and maybe after.
I'm excited for brunch.
Remember the last brunch we had?
I have photos of Jess or a video of Jess showing me how it's done with chopsticks.
Like, from like when we went to Sumamayo and had the brunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all went downhill from there.
I thought it was uphill.
No, it was a fun time. I just specifically remember you walking around telling every guy that he should date me that was tall.
That's the first rule.
I'm like, oh my gosh, all these guys think I'm just over here needing help with meeting people. And you would be like slapping them. You're like, you should date her. And I'm like, oh my God, I look pathetic right now. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a good thing you called Brian when you did. I need to go home.
Yeah. I was like, Brian, I think it might be a good time because you guys also kind of have a drive home after you get up here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 25 minutes away.
Yeah. Which is better than like the normal like 45, 50 minutes to Faribault in Minnesota.
You were only 35 minutes from me in Faribault.
Why did it always take me way longer to come down to you?
You go to a 5-minute nail appointment and you think you're going across the state.
True.
It's just perception.
Yeah. True. I need to change my mindset.
I think so. Maybe.
All right. Well, you guys will be watching this Sunday, but we'll be back on the following. Well, that's Easter. We also have a brunch
That
that
might be
day.
fun.
It'd be
We've
fun.
got some good people in town.
Yeah. Well, TBD at this point. Well, yeah, we can just have, oh gosh, that might be messy. We'll figure it out.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you guys next week for another episode of Casie Unhinged. Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.